Welcome to Kansas Ag Report. I'm Ken Rogers. On this week's program, we catch up with Jill Zimmerman, the president of the KARL program. They've just completed their first year of this 16th class of KARL. We'll also have features from the Kansas Soybean Commission, Kansas Department of Agriculture, as well as the Kansas Grain Sorghum. And our weekly update from the Kansas Livestock Association and market information from Pinion. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff, progress powered by Kansas farmers. Kansas Farm Bureau, a grassroots ag organization representing the state's farm and ranch families since 1919, kfb.org. And the Kansas Wheat Commission, lending in the adoption of profitable innovations from wheat, online at kswheat.com. In agriculture news, natural gas is an important source of energy for U.S. farms. While U.S. natural gas future prices have fallen sharply recently, CoBank says higher prices and increased volatility could be in the long-term horizon as the energy transition accelerates and European markets respond to recent supply constraints. Rising U.S. exports of liquefied natural gas, fewer opportunities for fuel switching between coal and gas, and supply chain bottlenecks may contribute to higher domestic energy costs in the future. Well, growth in farm lending activity at commercial banks limited in the first quarter of 2023 as interest rates continue to climb. The Kansas City Fed says alongside additional increases in the federal funds rate, interest rates on farm loans rose sharply. The rapid rise has shifted the range of rates offered to borrowers considerably higher. Non-real estate farm loan volumes decreased about 10% from the previous year in the first quarter of 2023, following average growth of 15% in 2022. Now, lending activity pushed down by fewer new loans and smaller-sized operating loans. The outlook for farm financing remaining favorably alongside elevated commodity prices, but higher interest rates, increased production costs, and drought remain key ongoing concerns. Strong farm income during recent years has bolstered liquidity for many producers and supported historic strong farm loan performance. Now, despite higher interest rates, the availability of credit remains strong at agriculture banks. And Kansas Senator Roger Marshall, along with Colorado Senator Michael Bennet, have introduced the Conservation Reserve Enhancement Program Improvement Act. This bill would provide flexibility for family farmers and ranchers that they need to conserve water on working lands while fairly compensating them for retiring their water rights or limiting their water use. The act would improve the CREP program in several ways, like including directing USDA to allow dryland agriculture uses on CREP acreage where appropriate. Other improvements, specifically adding dryland crop production and grazing to the list of appropriate conservation practices for the CREP program. Dr. Marshall said time and time again we hear USDA being too rigid in their interpretation of good programs, and this bill will help give farmers and ranchers a bit more flexibility. We'll have more coming up in just a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by Kansas Grain Sorghum. Growers working together. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org. Grass and Grain, online or in the mail, keeping Kansas farmers informed for over 60 years. grassandgrain.com. And our guest is Jill Zimmerman, who is the president of KARL, Kansas Agriculture Rural Leadership. Hi, Jill.
Hey, Ken, how are you today?
Doing well. We wanted to talk with you to give us an update on what's going on with the program and this class and how things have gone in this with this group.
Absolutely, Ken. So we're just class 16 has finished year one, and so year one brought several seminars throughout the state: Manhattan, Junction City, Garden City, Goodland, Topeka, Leavenworth, Kansas City, and then the capstone was Washington, D.C. and Gettysburg. And just an exceptional group of change makers, folks who care about making a difference in Kansas. And so super excited. They had a really good experience. So now they will take a few months off here before they come back again in August. But really just have had great conversations with building on that network and identifying issues that are common to all of us, and how can we build on that, build capacity to have conversations to find our why and fix the things we need to work on.
Well, Jill, the KARL program now is in its third decade. And as we've seen things develop over that time, some of the issues remain the same in agriculture and rural Kansas, but there are also ones that have been brought in, and the program has been able to adapt and bring some of those and include some of those as we try to maintain that way of life that we all love.
Yeah, adaptability, resilience. Ken, you're absolutely right. In fact, this morning I was at a breakfast and mentioned was Dr. Flinchbaugh, who was one of our founders back in 1989. And so you're exactly right, but we have to continue having the conversations. Many of the conversations we have today, whether it's in the state of Kansas and with our peer programs throughout the United States, or even as we travel internationally, oftentimes we're talking about water. We're talking about the aging demographics of the average age of a producer, so technology. So these problems and the challenges or the opportunities, they're not just unique to us, right, as Kansans, or to each of us in our own individual communities. So I think the cool thing about KARL is creating capacity, increased capacity, so that we can have greater, more intelligent conversations with folks.
Well, it's one of those that, the program is only 2 years. And as you said, right now in a bit of a break. So it still follows, if you will, the pattern of a traditional agrarian kind of mindset, to where when the work has to be done on the farm, you're able to get that done. But also maybe in other times, this is when some of these seminars go on.
Yeah, absolutely. And so we do, and many of these programs, we have peer programs throughout the United States, but we all follow kind of the same schedule. You kind of pick it up through October, November, December, January, March, and then take that pause. But oftentimes, though, Ken, that isn't maybe the most conducive for folks' participation who have livestock. And you'll hear a Class 1 participant, Jerry McReynolds, talk about when he knew he applied, he made some adjustments, so that calving season didn't quite hit him as hard, right, in terms of timing and sequence. So
I believe I did the same thing. So where we calved a little later, and then we were told that. So that's it. So very good. Jill Zimmerman, who is the president of the KARL program here in Kansas, is our guest. We're going to take a break, come back with more in just a moment. Kansas Ag Report brought to you in part by the Kansas Livestock Association, supporting members' business interests and meeting consumer demands. KLA.org. Oldie Seed Farms, carrying soil-specific seed. Find them on the web at oldieseed.com. That's OHLDE seed.com. And Kansas Corn, building the future at kansascorn.com. And Jill Zimmerman, the president of the Kansas Ag Rural Leadership Program, known as KARL, is joining us. And Jill, I know you just got back just a few days ago from kind of a pre-trip before the international seminar. And where'd you go, and what's in store?
Yeah, so as you know, Ken, each year or every class has the opportunity, the capstone of the whole program for that 2 years is an international experience. This class will have the opportunity in March of 24 to travel to Spain. And so we had each class, we have an exploratory team that kind of, if you will, does the scouting, and so those tours are open to, they're not specific to just one person. Anybody can participate in those, but we traveled to Spain, and we really spent time in that southern region of Spain, experiencing what their agriculture looks like, talking about problems that they are experiencing, The team also had an opportunity to visit Portugal for briefly, and that the class 16 won't have the opportunity to do Portugal, but so we spent the majority of our time in Spain, and just it's an interesting country. It was a really cool experience.
I think it's great to have Kansas farmers to go to places like Spain, which, while there may be some similarities, there's a lot of things different. Speaking of that, I understand also there's an opportunity for maybe alumni or friends of the KARL program to head south.
Yeah, so we're looking we really want to encourage folks, because we do think that the participation, it will be limited to probably 32 or 35, but in February of 2024, we will lead an excursion to Brazil. It'll be totally ag focused. Romulo Lalato in the Department of Agronomy here at Kansas State University has agreed to be our host. So we're just finalizing those details, but we're really excited, Ken, to be able to offer that opportunity to go to Brazil. Class 7 went to Brazil in 2005, and so a country that's rich in history and has a lot going on. So there's a lot of excitement brewing for that experience too. And it, like you said, it's open to supporters, alumni, which we now call fellows of the program. So be on the lookout for that. We're super excited about that opportunity to grow the network and to grow the conversations and to grow the opportunities to tackle those conversations we need to have.
And it's an ongoing recruitment process to get the next class in KARL. And there's an event that folks can participate in closer to home than going to Spain or Brazil.
Absolutely. Part of our goal is to increase the opportunity for fellowship and networking and just coming together. And so in the off years of when we have the big event and we announce the class, we will now host a big gathering. And that big gathering will be on Saturday, June 3rd in Florence, Kansas. It'll be hosted by a class 12 fellow, Sarah Dawson, and her husband, Troy. And it'll be a taste of the Flint Hills. So we've got some prime ribeye steaks that have been donated for the event. And we've got it's going to be a wonderful evening of just kind of networking and relationship building. And so look for registration information this coming week. And so it'll be good.
All right, Jill. Now, if folks want to continue to learn more about the program and what is going on, maybe they want to help sponsor or have somebody maybe that should apply for the program. How can they do that?
Yeah, KARLprogram.com, KARLprogram.com. And, Ken, we're always trying to grow our network and to tell the story. And so the applications will be available January 1 of 24, and they'll close April 1 of 24. In the meantime, check us out on the World Wide Web, and we're happy to connect and visit with you at any time.
All right, Jill, thanks so much for the update, and we'll talk with you again in the future.
Thank you. Appreciate the opportunity.
Jill Zimmerman, the president of the Kansas Agriculture Rural Leadership Program, known as KARL, has joined us. We'll have more coming up in just a moment.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
What if U.S. soybean meal were more than a commodity? If seed companies and the soybean checkoff built a better variety? That future is here. The time is now. To meet end-user demands, the soybean checkoff is investing in the compositional quality of soybeans, including meal. A message from the Kansas Soybean Commission, the Soybean Checkoff. Progress powered by Kansas farmers.
Are you headed out to the field today with planter in tow? Soon enough, you'll be scouting your growing fields for pests or making other agronomic decisions to grow a hardy crop. The Kansas Soybean Commission and your Soybean Checkoff are funding research to ensure your next crop is your best crop. A significant portion of the annual checkoff funding designations go toward agronomic research projects chosen by the 9-member commission led by farmers who are out in the field managing challenges firsthand. 7 projects out of Kansas State University are continuing into the 2023 crop season. How can residual herbicides help manage pigweeds in early planted soybeans? Dr. Lancaster is searching for the answer. What is the best defense against the insects plaguing Kansas fields? Tanya Kim's project will create a landscape model that will help prevent infestations. And the seedling and root diseases that negatively impact yield? Dr. Chris Little and his team are evaluating control strategies to combat charcoal rot, fusarium root rot, and others. 3 new projects out of K-State are just starting up this year. Dr. Rodrigo Nofre is looking to improve systems for detecting and managing sudden death syndrome. Dr. Harold Trick is using biotechnology to uncover enhanced disease resistance. Longtime researcher Dr. Bill Shapaw is evaluating climate and disease resilience in his germplasm breeding program. While these projects will certainly bring value to farmers at a state level, the Commission has also invested in the North Central Soybean Research Program, or NCSRP, to facilitate collaboration with other universities and bring agronomic solutions on a regional level. For in-depth reviews of the agronomic projects funded in Kansas, check out the Soybean Research Database at soybeanresearchdata.com or find digestible overviews of the projects through the Soybean Research Information Network at soybeanresearchinfo.com.
Premier Farm and Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm and Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.
The Kansas Wheat Innovation Center in Manhattan is rediscovering ways to get improved varieties and new genetics in the hands of farmers faster. Grower-led and checkoff-funded research initiatives are bringing about positive change. This grassroots leadership provides a strong voice in Topeka and Washington, D.C. Now is the time to partner with Kansas Wheat in moving wheat forward. Kansas Wheat Commission and Kansas Association of Wheat Growers. Farmers investing in their future and yours. Log on to rediscoverwheat.org.
As May begins, the Kansas Department of Agriculture invites you to help us celebrate the largest sector of the Kansas ag industry, beef. The month of May is Kansas Beef Month, where we recognize the substantial importance of the beef industry to the state. Kansas historically is a leader in beef production, and with more than 27,000 cattle farms and ranches in Kansas today, we rank 3rd in the nation with 6.25 million cattle. You'll find beef cattle in every single county in the state, and the beef industry is a vital part of communities across Kansas, contributing more to the state's economy than any other ag sector. The Kansas beef industry includes leaders at all levels of the production chain, as well as in research, health, marketing, and advocacy. Through projects like U.S. Cattle Trace and Secure Beef Supply, the Kansas beef industry has taken the lead nationwide in issues of traceability and biosecurity, reflecting the importance of the beef industry to the state. The hardworking ranchers of Kansas are committed to the health, comfort, and well-being of their cattle while protecting and preserving our natural resources and raising safe, nutritious, and wholesome beef for consumers around the world. Not all Kansas farmland can be used to grow crops, so grazing cattle on that pasture and rangeland can efficiently utilize grasses and plants, as the cattle can turn these resources into essential protein and nutrients. The Kansas Department of Agriculture is proud to support the Kansas Beef Council in celebrating beef during the month of May. Find recipes, purchasing tips, features on Kansas ranchers, and more at the Kansas Beef Council's website, kansasbeef.org. Then enjoy some Kansas beef on your grill this May and join the Kansas Department of Agriculture as we celebrate the important contributions of the Kansas beef industry during Kansas Beef Month.
Grain sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.
Maddie Meyer here, Director of Programs for Kansas Grain Sorghum. For those of you that have a passion for leadership and are wanting to make an impact on the sorghum industry, the United Sorghum Checkoff Board has multiple positions that will become vacant as of December 2023, as board members can only serve 2 consecutive 3-year terms. The USDA's Agricultural Marketing Service is asking that nominations for these positions be filed by May 2nd, 2023. The vacant positions include 3 at-large producers. Ethan J. Miller of Missouri, Clint Stewart of Nebraska, and James Haas of Colorado have previously served in these roles. Miller and Haas are both eligible for reappointment. A Kansas producer and a producer in Texas. Shane Supis and Charles Ray Huddleston, who had held these positions respectively, are not eligible for reappointment. Kansas Grain Sorghum staff plans to hold a virtual meeting to discuss and nominate individuals for these positions on Tuesday, April 10. Details will follow. For more information, you can contact staff at www.ksgrainsorghum.org/contact. Again, that is www.ksgrainsorghum.org/contact. We look forward to working with those next individuals who will serve as the next Sorghum Checkoff board members. Thank you.
Premier Farm and Home has what you need to make your lawn the best in the neighborhood.
Hi, I'm Ken. We choose Premier Farm and Home for the professional look that we do ourselves.
Feel free to stop in. You can also visit our website at heycow.com.
When it comes to my child and the sports they love, I want them to be ready for their moment. So to fuel their bodies and their potential, I choose an authentic source of protein that has the nutrients they need to succeed and a taste they already love, with one simple ingredient: beef.
A judge in the U.S. District Court for the District of North Dakota has granted a preliminary injunction pausing the Biden administration's Waters of the U.S. rule in 24 states, including Kansas. Combined with a previous ruling in the Southern District of Texas, 26 states across the country now are protected from the rule. According to National Cattlemen's Beef Association President Todd Wilkinson, a South Dakota cattle producer, with this new ruling, the courts have once again affirmed that the Biden administration's Waters of the U.S. rule is overreaching and harmful to America's farmers and ranchers. The injunction was granted due to a lawsuit filed by 24 state attorneys general, including Kansas Attorney General Chris Kobach, seeking to overturn the harmful rule. Wilkinson said thanks to the injunction, cattle producers in 26 states now have some additional certainty while this rule is being litigated, and NCBA is optimistic that the Supreme Court will provide nationwide clarity on the federal government's proper jurisdiction over water when they provide a decision in Sackett v. EPA. The Supreme Court heard oral arguments in the case last October and is expected to release a decision in the coming months. NCBA's motion for a nationwide injunction still is pending in the North Dakota court.
Many seed companies claim to offer the latest genetics, but how many have tested those genetics in soils just like yours? The Oldie Seed Know to Grow research program has fully tested the latest seed genetics in soils that are right in your neighborhood. The Oldie Seed Know to Grow program can recommend the best performing hybrids from technologies like Enlist, Extend, and Liberty Link that will optimize the yield and profit of every acre on your farm. Contact Oldie Seed today.
What does a brighter, more sustainable future look like in our cities and towns, and how do we get there? When New York needed an alternative fuel source to reduce carbon emissions, the city found what it needed in biodiesel made from U.S. soybean oil.
Good morning, this is Jake McCall with Pinion Ag. The grain and oilseed markets have taken a steady decline recently, with the new crop corn contract taking out lows going back to February 2022. A large part of the recent news cycle has been focused on extremely weak Brazilian basis, allowing for Chinese importers to pick up large quantities in an effort to fill up their reserves. In fact, there have been reports of Brazilian soybeans being imported to the U.S., not surprising with the enormous size of the Brazilian crop. In the Black Sea region, Russian negotiators continue to cast doubt on the Ukrainian grain initiative, as they see Russian products are not being allowed to be shipped due to Western sanctions. While the original deal was to be revisited every 120 days, Russian diplomats say that this time it will expire at 60 days, which will be May 18th. Here in the U.S., planting season is well underway, even with cooler weather in much of the country. According to the USDA's crop progress report on Monday, corn planting was at 14% complete, while beans were at 9%. From that same report on Monday, winter wheat conditions stand at just 26% good or excellent, as drought persists in western Kansas and other important areas. We have seen some good moisture throughout southern and western Kansas this week, which has been very much welcomed. Tensions remain high between China, the U.S., and Taiwan, with military maneuvers around the island recently. Peace remains for now, but China is determined to bring Taiwan back under Chinese control one way or another. If you have any questions, feel free to give us a call at 888-452-8751. I'm Jake McCall with Pinion Ag, and I hope you have a safe and productive day.
Rural families are built different. You deal with the highs and lows of rural living. You support your family, your church, and your community. You often work sun up to sun down, and you do these things because you love it. But life isn't always easy.
Sometimes as farmers or ranchers, you're supposed to be this big tough person. You know, like I've got this ground, I've got these cattle. You're not supposed to struggle. Everybody's struggling. And sometimes it's just having that conversation with a friend for them to soften a little bit, to be able to have an open conversation.
There is help for anyone struggling with mental health. Text or call 988 to be connected to the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline. Talk to someone. Above all, don't suffer in silence. For more resources, visit kfb.org/Rural Minds Matter.
That's our program. Be social with us at KansasAgReport.net or our social media channels. I'm Ken Rogers. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week.
Kansas Corn reminds you that E15 fuel is the right choice for every kind of driver. For the car enthusiast, E15 has higher octane. For the thrifty driver, E15 is priced lower than regular unleaded. For the nature lover, E15 provides cleaner air. For the shopper who buys local, E15 has more ethanol from our Kansas corn farms. Choose E15 for a higher octane, lower price, cleaner American fuel. Message from the Kansas Corn Commission. Learn more at kscorn.com.
Sorghum is one of the most important cereal crops worldwide, and Kansas leads the nation in its production. Over the years, sorghum has been either exported, used in animal feed domestically, or for other industrial uses. Recently, its use in the ethanol market has seen tremendous growth, with 30% of domestic sorghum typically going to ethanol production. Kansas Grain Sorghum is committed to sorghum research, market development, and education. Learn more at ksgrainsorghum.org.